Good morning, everybody. We are now live. Welcome. It's been a while, a long while. So before we start the meeting, just to let people know who are following maybe along at home, the reason that we've had a break in our meetings. They were formerly called the Police Services Board meeting. They're now called the OPP Detachment Board meetings. There were some changes through the Solicitor General's office and the bodies that be, and we had to reconstruct and kind of start over again. So this is our inaugural meeting as the Norfolk County OPP Detachment Board. So I'd like to welcome everybody, and I will call this meeting to order. At this time, are there any approval of agenda or changes to the agenda items? Okay, seeing none. We don't need a motion or anything on that, do we? No, okay. At this time, are there any declarations of conflict of interest, pecuniary interests? Sorry, Linda, I have to keep looking over at you. I forgot that. Okay, all right. And at this point now, item number 4 on the agenda, we will do the confirmation of the minutes from the previous meeting, the Police Services Board meeting minutes from March 27th, 2024. Were there any questions or concerns arising from those minutes? Okay, seeing none. Could I have someone approve those minutes? Member Cruz, and seconded by Member Veery. Typically at this point in the agenda, we would have our space for deputations. Today, we do not have any deputations. Number 6 on our item agenda is consent. Oh my goodness gracious. Consent agenda, and we have no items on that. The next item is our a very in-depth one because we've got 3 months. It's the items for consideration, 7.1. It is the operational statistics and highlights, October, November, December 2024 from our OPP detachment. And with that, I will hand the mic over to Inspector Tate.
Good morning, everybody, and it's wonderful to be back and to see everybody and to work with everyone again. It's been a long time. And it's one of those things, even for me, when I'm going through some of our analytics and some of our stats from the past moment back since our last meeting, it just makes me realize how much has actually happened and transpired, just with everything from staffing changes to investigations to just office dynamics. So it is wonderful to be back, and we do very, very much value the the very warm and great relationship we do have with our board, and obviously trying to navigate through the new changes with the CSPA and all that too. It's been kind of challenging, but you know what? We're resilient and we're here right now, so it's wonderful to be back. So thank you. With respect to kind of going through some of the highlights of October, November, and December, and on top of some of the stats that have been presented here, I've made a little list of some other little highlighted items that I just wanted to contribute as well, that I'll kind of maybe flow into the report as well. Yeah, but by all means, any questions, anything like that, for sure. Kind of moving through the first section here that I have here as far as violent crime. Kind of the highlighted things, and without going through all of the specific headings and areas, what I do is I kind of look at specific areas that jump out at me that are either, to me, appearing as a positive, and other things that maybe is something that it's a little bit of a flag that from my end we need to kind of address and work on focusing a little bit more on. One of the things that we have had in previous meetings too, I know a pretty high incidence of sexual offenses. That's been kind of an ongoing matter that obviously with any number of sexual offenses, the investigators that investigate this nature and this kind of crime are specialized crime unit members that do that. So obviously whenever we do have a heightened or a higher number of that, it puts a lot more workload on those members. have to deal with that. So it's in our best interest to try to, from our end, work with our societal partners, the agencies in the community, the schools, et cetera, just to try to help with education, start young and also start to really, we're just one part of the cog in the wheel to try to address a bit of a systemic issue with sexual offenses and that. It is kind of refreshing to see that during the October to December time, there was a negative 52.9% reduction in the number that we were receiving. Year to date to a negative 22.3%. However, it is something that I'm still very, very closely monitoring, and it's, with our community mobilization officer who works jointly again with many, whether it's public health to Board of Education to everybody, we're on it. Like, we're still trying to push through it because obviously victims against crime of that nature too, it's unacceptable, and we need to do whatever we can to reduce that. Assaults, the other thing that one of the ones that kind of jumped out at me was a 21.8% increase between October and December in assaults and firearm related offenses. So I kind of flagged that, and in close discussion, daily discussions with my detective sergeant in the street crime unit, and also his partnership with the other street crime units in our syndicate, but also in West Region, and even with the municipal police services as well. It is an unfortunate, concerning trend, and I think we've seen it in the news and the media and that, where there is a lot more propensity and a lot more occasion where any investigations that are done by our specialty units with respect to drugs, they are finding firearms associated. And, I remember, without, dwelling on the old days, but I remember, I think it was back in 1999 when one of our drug team units stopped a vehicle and found a firearm in the vehicle. And we were all crowded around the car. We just couldn't believe it. Like, we were just standing staring at this thing like it was, the unicorn, like the magical unicorn kind of thing, like never seen anything like this. And now, unfortunately, it's very prevalent, and we are seeing them. So it's something, like, obviously from an officer safety perspective, our officers have to be very aware of that and in tune to that with the drug culture and with that it does kind of go hand in hand. So there is a big safety risk as well to our members. So it's just an ongoing thing using OPP, and our joint partnerships with a lot of municipal services, with intelligence, and we're going to see a lot of impacts probably with the border moving forward too. It may make the transportation and that of illegal guns coming across the border and back and forth a little bit more difficult. So we're kind of tracking that right now. With respect to the other violent crime categories, though, we're pretty much trending well, pretty consistent. And again, too, like the numbers, even if percentages in a lot of areas, as we know with percentages, a change from, say, 25 to 29 could show a very marked increase, but it's actually just 4 different occurrences. So I see everything pretty consistent here. It's pretty level going over that time spread. With respect to property crime, obviously we're seeing reductions in the October to December. We're seeing reductions in pretty much all the areas except for one, and I'll speak to that just briefly for what I can speak to it. Obviously, very, very, very good to see reductions in a lot of these areas with, break and enter, theft overs, possession of stolen properties. It's nice to see that. However, we have seen a spike, obviously, with arson specifically. So in our community, we do have a very, very intensive, as we speak right now, ongoing investigation into some multiple arsons that have occurred in our county. Predominantly, without going into the obviously being respectful of the investigative side of things that are going on, but I know everyone's kind of interested in numbers, so I think as far the information I have in front of me, I believe we have 13 that have occurred primarily since October, but have kind of picked up more in recent months. So again, it's been one of those things where it is like, obviously we have a meeting today at our detachment. Staff Sergeant Catherine Braceland, who's our new staff, she's not new anymore, but one of our new members here to the detachment team is, regrettably, she's not here today because she's participating in a joint task force meeting right now with respect to that. So it is something that we're very, very, very much in tune to. The organization has a lot of resources in it as well. So hopefully we'll have some good news stories coming from that soon. So.
Member Cruz?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Inspector, with respect to the arsons, I want to acknowledge the work of the OPP that they're doing now, the crime unit, and the Norfolk Fire Department as well. I know it's difficult work, but it looks like you're on it, and things are progressing, so thank you.
Thank you, and that's a very, very good comment to it. You know, even with our fire department too, because it does show the partnership. Obviously, these fires are very, very concerning. I think to anybody, that's an understatement, especially to me. You know, they are obviously Chief Stillwell and his team are, you know, for all purposes, our brothers and sisters. We care about them deeply. And, you know, the risk that these fires, you know, someone might say, well, it's property damage. Yes, but you're putting live human beings in a position to respond and have to deal with these fires, and you're putting them at risk. So that really makes me extremely concerned and kind of twist a bit too. So I, you know, the sooner we can resolve this, I think for everybody, the better. Yes, and so moving on from that, as far as drug crime, again, I know we've had, over the years, we've had our community street crime unit come in and do presentations on various topics on what they're doing to curb the drug scene and some of their seizures and the impacts. They're continuing to do it. They're an amazing unit and very, very understated, they just kind of quietly behind the scenes do so much for the community as far as eradicating illegal drugs and dealing with addictions and so forth. So in 2024, some of the stats here, a little bit of an increase in possession of drugs. However, a lot of these numbers too, I'm always a little bit, especially with the drug offenses and that, because so much are currently before the courts, so could change the numbers very quickly. As we're sitting here right now, there's multitude of ongoing investigations right now that are waiting to come to fruition, so I think the numbers will really, really change drastically. But basically in 2024, the Norfolk County Street Crime Unit executed 28 CDSA search warrants. They issued a total in 2024 of 304 charges. That's collectively, whether it was drugs or criminal offenses. And this is a pretty impactful comment here. They seized $113,281 worth of drugs that were seized off the streets. So again, very, very sizable impact as far as the drug culture, here, and it's just going to be more and more, and there will be more definitely to report on later. Part of their other area of that as well is we're very, you know, I think in the past kind of passionate about our grant opportunity with our preventing auto thefts grant, and the unit that has been in full speed, really cooking in that department. I can say too that in 2024, that unit alone, and it's a small but mighty unit that works collaboratively with our street crime unit, has laid, and these are all auto theft related charges, related occurrences, 155 charges related in 2024 with respect to that. The other part of that too is obviously is the education and awareness and real that engagement with our community. So it's one thing to do like fulsome investigations, to hold people accountable, to charge them, and to return stolen property. But on top of that, our auto theft unit is actively out there doing traffic initiatives, community initiatives, interacting with the public at events, handing out literature, just brochures to better equip and educate people about auto theft and how they can prepare themselves a little better and protect themselves. And they have had, in 2024, they had over 800 community contacts with furthering that initiative. So I have noticed, even personally, that within a county, and I never like to compare to partners and neighbors and that, but as a county, we have had a massive impact on auto theft in our county, and we're really seeing that it has been an incredibly beneficial thing for us. So it's been wonderful. And kind of moving along here, other crime occurrences, again, I'm not going to kind of dwell on that too much. Pretty much minimal comparative impact from year to year, and from 2022 to 2024. The same with the unfounded occurrences, and I know we had that included in there. I kind of asked for clarification on that one myself, just to, what is unfounded? Like, what does that mean? And I was basically told that it's kind of a catch basin, it's a caveat or a catch basin for any type of occurrence that our officers would be dispatched to, that as they do their investigation and they start into it, they determine that it's unfounded. It's not what it was maybe initially reported as, and kind of dealt with, they just kind of dealt with it very quickly and went away. So that's one area that we can definitely include it. I don't know how meaningful it is really to see the numbers from that, but you know, I am going to kind of deep dive into that a little bit more just to kind of see, yeah. Clearance rates, we have been, and I got to say, since I've been in Norfolk, I have been always very impressed with that area. We've always done very well with our clearance rates, and it just seems that it really does, I think, lend to not only our crime unit that I spoke to, but our street crime unit, and even the officers, even just that tenacity, that investigative tenacity and conscientiousness that they do possess. And you know, I know I might be biased a little bit, but I'm a huge advocate for the members of our detachment, and just seeing what they do every day. It's pretty incredible, you know, what they do. And as far as the clearance rates itself, they're all doing well. The one that showed a little bit in the negative was the drug area. But again, too, that's very common and very typical with ongoing investigations that can change very quickly once projects are done and that sort of thing. And mental health occurrences, again, too, pretty consistent. Little bit of a change, but basically, it's pretty consistent from what I can see. As far as the occurrence types, under the category of mental health, we're seeing, you know, obviously attempt or threat of suicide as being the pretty much the highest category that we're kind of dealing with as the police. Mental Health Act being incorporated from October to December, 127. So, and again, too, it's something that we're, definitely working with our vulnerable segment of our population. It's very upsetting. I think it's mental health is something that is not immune or specific to a certain category of person. It affects all of us, and it has affected all of us. So it's something that we're very compassionate about, very empathetic about as we deal with. And, we do definitely have the training, the stuff that our officers, it's pretty amazing comparatively to, say, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the training that our officers must undergo as far as mental health training, also recognizing their own wellness as well, and with our healthy workplace team and that.
Member Very.
Thanks, Chair. Through you to, I guess, the inspector there. What is the 127 occurrences, though? Like, everything else is broken out there that I understand, but the number one is 127. What is that? I looked up the Act yesterday, and I didn't really get any clarity on what the occurrence would be to have the number that high.
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, I think Mental Health Act, it means any specific occurrence where the police were called and came, assessed, and apprehended a person under the Mental Health Act, and were then brought to the hospital to be assessed for a Form 1 under that criteria.
Sorry, thanks. Follow up, I guess, through the chair there. But what is that, though? Like, someone having like a...
Yeah.
Like, I guess I'm just trying to understand. So that's by far the number one. So what would that be? Yeah,
that would be a very broad comment, and I think too, a lot of that would fall into place with, say, attempt or threat of suicide as well. Like generally, we'll get a 911 call, or we'll get a call about somebody in crisis, and it could be all across the mental health spectrum. It could be somebody that's just had a bad day to somebody that's having a pretty significant psychotic episode and is detached from reality, and that the officers, not being medical professionals, however, we are trained in how to quickly assess, and if they're a danger, the criteria, if that person's a danger to themselves or a danger to others, or is incapable of caring for themselves due to their mental health state, then we have to apprehend them. Yeah. Yeah.
Member Van and Rishi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. I have a couple of questions, and I apologize that I want to go backwards a bit, but I want to go back to the fire incidents that we're having. What is the collaboration between the police and the fire departments? Because if we're looking at, I'll preface that by saying that a lot of the rural community are quite concerned because we have a lot of outbuildings. Sometimes they look like they're not being occupied or being used, but there's a real fear and risk there. And I'll be honest, we're fearing that there could be some sort of arson out there. There seems to be so many fires. What are your thoughts on that? What is the collaboration between the police and the fire? If I can ask that question.
Yeah, definitely. We have a very, very, very distinct partnership in a lot of aspects, like with emergency management and stuff in the county. So as far as a tiered response to any kind of emergency like that, obviously it's a fire. So, fire generally takes the lead on something, and we parallel, like we're very, very frequently, like obviously something of that nature, we're called as well. So while fire's attending to do their job, police will be dispatched to respond to, and they kind of work collaboratively. The fire department's doing their job. They may engage the Ontario Fire Marshal's office as well, depending on circumstances. So that's kind of the way the fire department rolls. The police are on scene too. If information is shared of the nature of the fire being suspicious in nature and so forth, obviously the police then will start criminal investigations that they deem appropriate. Criminal code under the offense of arson, for example, if that's the case. and start a criminal investigation into that, working in partnership with the fire department, of course, and the Ontario Fire Marshal's office, yeah.
Okay, and follow up to that, if I may, Madam Chair. The idea of patrolling, is there thoughts of increased patrolling in the rural areas, up and down the consent, so that someone knows that there's police officers out there? You don't often notice, in town, of course, you're going to notice the police officers, but out in the country, we're lucky in staying in this particular area. You'll see a cruiser out and about along the highways and some of that. But is there any thoughts of increasing it, following this pattern that's happening out there?
Yeah, and again too, like without getting getting into too many investigative specifics there. Obviously, we're always trying to work smarter, and nowadays too, with the analytics that we have, the analysts that we do have available to us as well, we're always trying to identify patterns if we can, trying to look at areas that maybe, instead of just basically, say years ago saying to our officers, just make sure you're driving around in the back roads. We're trying to get more bang for our buck and have the officers actually target specific areas and drive around. So yes, we are doing that.
If I may, Madam Chair, a little bit of latitude here. I'm bouncing a little bit forward, and I apologize for that. But it's a segue into my next comment then. What's happening out there is we as councillors are getting a lot of complaints about speeding. But yeah, when I look at your traffic-related charges, I see that the offenses are decreased, if I'm reading that correctly, in 24. And speeding offenses occurred in 22, 659, and in 24, of which we hear the speeding issue everywhere, and trying to mitigate it with different types of speed mitigation on the roads. Isn't an increased presence? Is that the reasoning? Or I just don't understand why we're getting so many complaints about speeding, and yet your numbers indicate it's down. If I could ask that question.
No, definitely. As far as speed, it's kind of that's a very speeding. I think in general is a very, very interesting topic, and I think it also, without kind of jumping all over the report a little bit here.
I apologize.
No. Oh, no. It does speak to, obviously, if I know you probably hit on it as well in looking at motor vehicle collisions as well. So, if you look at motor vehicle collisions, and the type, which I can speak to now as well. It was something that, looking at the causal factors, so what is the leading causal factor of our motor vehicle collisions? And the numbers, if you look at October to December for motor vehicle collision type, yes, the numbers have gone down relatively. However, when compared to year to date, we did have a pretty, an increase. We did have an increase from, I think in 2022 and 2023, from 8 fatal motor vehicle collisions to 11. And again, for me, with respect to motor vehicle collisions, you look at a multitude of things, and you always look at the causal factors. The causal factors, the leading causal factor that we had for our motor vehicle collisions in general was speed. So the officers, when they do their investigation, they try to determine, well, what in fact was the cause of this accident, the best they can through their investigation. And the leading cause that we can see is speed. And I know there's been many, many reports on speed. And, I've had close friends who were very highly experienced recon and TCI traffic collision investigative people. And they always were staunchly adamant that speed is that's the cause. That's the number one cause for people just going too fast for conditions, and then things happen. So one of the things that we definitely do to address that, and for me, in seeing the increase, yes, the fatal motor vehicles, again, a 37.5% increase year to date. We're talking a number of from 8 to 11. Out of that 11, I believe the majority were motor vehicles. One was a ATV, I think, and the other one was a snow machine. So regardless, 8 to 11 doesn't seem like a large increase, but to me, 11 is, like just the number 11 in general is. So what we have done even proactively, and that's really my role and my responsibility, is to identify things and to go, okay, what do we need? Obviously, we owe it to the community, and we got to be able to show that we're responding accordingly to things. So what we have incorporated at our detachment is a motor vehicle reduction strategy for 2025, what that means is each quarter we will be doing, on top of whatever the OPP, whatever regionally we do as an organization or provincially with our traffic initiatives that we have, we're also, in addition to that, going to have a quarterly week where we're just targeting, again, the big 4 offenses: impaired driving, distracted driving, aggressive driving, which is speeding, and occupant restraint seatbelts. So we're going to do that ourselves and really use a multi-prong approach. We're using our analytics to look at all of the accident, I shouldn't say accidents because they're not accidents, all the collisions that have occurred in our area, say in 2024, and then that way we can specifically target these areas of high incidence that there have been motor vehicle collisions, and with targeted enforcement, with RIDE, with lots of community awareness and public awareness as well. So it's going to be, there will be a media presence as well. We will be putting in the media and really kind of putting it out there to people, just to show, to be safe and to reduce the speed. On top of that, we are in a position right now to have a few of our officers, we do have a couple officers that, I know everyone's heard of the service delivery model in the OPP, and there's one area of the service delivery model that is proactive patrol, and also there's another one for community engagement as well. So we're looking to have these officers, and we're kind of getting with 2025, especially in the OPP, without referring to them as traffic officers or a traffic team, and that they're going to be our service delivery model officers, and they're going to be the ones that will have the huge benefit to use these resources. They'll be coming in and just to specifically target these areas for enforcement, to do RIDE, to do foot patrols, to do anything that we want to kind of beef up our numbers and be able to beef up our presence, et cetera, in the area. So it's very time, and I do appreciate the comment. It's kind of funny. That's what I mean with speeding. It's a big thing. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot of areas that even locally here at the detachment we will be doing to address that, because officer presence, we will be out there, we will be advertising it, we will be and within the addition of having these 2 officers as well, there will be a pretty significant impact.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll have a few questions, but I'll wait till the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. And just moving along, as far as overdose occurrences, it looks, again, year to date from 2022 to 2024, we saw a reduction from 23 down to 14. So, which I think is fantastic news. But again, we can in no way take credit for any reductions when it comes to overdose as well. That is really to the credit of the people in our office, the officers, our community mobilization officer, working in partnership with public health, with the hospitals, with everybody, to try to support addiction and really try to address it. So that was that was a number that was a very big positive for me. Victim services, again, to very engaged with victim services, as a lot of people might not realize, we do have victim services. We do have the office located right in our detachment. So literally right inside our office, which is a fantastic partnership. It's very, very important to us, not only as Norfolk County OPP, but as the organization in general to be very, very in tune and very receptive of victims of crime and to work jointly with that. So the referrals are up, which is very, very good to see. It looks like the leading referral, the occurrence type that kind of generates the most that we could see from October to December were intimate partner violence occurrences, so domestic type occurrences, which were the most utilized. October to December, the age group that was most significantly utilizing the referrals and accepted the referrals was the age 26 to 45, which I would suggest is pretty aligned with domestic violence type occurrences, like that age group a little bit. But interesting, year to date, the referrals age group that was the most high, I guess, were the age 6 to 10 years of age. And it's interesting too, in recognizing that too, we actually have a room at our detachment now, just off, it's right off the main public area there. One of our crime unit members, in recognizing this and seeing a lot of these young people and children and being drawn into, unfortunately, very tragically into some crime, and that we've made that room. We have toys, we have snacks, we have all sorts of things for the kids. So it's a very, very comfortable, very soft room for them, just to put them at ease. And obviously, it can be very, unimaginable to be in a police detachment, with your mom or your dad, or your parent or whomever, in a circumstance like that. So we're doing whatever we can to try to mitigate that and make it kind of soft for that. So again, victim services, basically for everybody, it's an ongoing partnership that we have and that we share and that we do value. Motor vehicle collision type, I think I kind of spoke to that a little bit. And again, for the most part, we were seeing areas, and I'll kind of look at the year to date a little bit more, but we did see a very, very slight increase in non-fatal injury. Did see an increase, as spoken to, in fatal motor vehicle collisions, which again is, kind of, I think, through this reduction strategy, but also through public awareness as well, and et cetera. It's very important to get that message out to the community. Property damage only, we did see a bit of an increase as well. So again, I think generally, back to the councillor's comments there too, I think it all circles back, in my opinion, back to, my assessment of it would be to speed, and, something that we definitely need to address. And sorry, I'm just taking a look here. And then a lot of the other things I kind of covered very broadly there, kind of with a brush, just kind of covered a lot of the other areas, whether it was the criminal code, provincial statute, charges laid. I do think, again, one of the areas that kind of jumped out at me year to date, where we always can do better, and again, that's my role, my responsibility is to identify areas that we can improve. I did see a reduction in Highway Traffic Act charges, down 28.6% from 2022 and 2023. And to me too, that just simply means that, okay, we have to look at strategizing internally at detachment. We have to look at ways that we can, really get the members to again recognize and value that highway safety is a very, very critical component of our overall safety for the area. We do have a lot of new officers that are coming in, like a lot of brand new officers, and I think that have come in even since this reporting cycle here. And I think it's a very, very good opportunity to kind of mold and you can really get the foundation into these new officers of very good habits and very good things with going out and just, whether it's one thing in doing targeted enforcement for speeding, for example, but then at the same time parking their car in downtown Port Dover or in Simcoe and just stretching their legs and going for a walk and doing a foot patrol. So I think it's just trying to get that mindset and get that going. But again, I think where we're trying to educate and kind of stay on our officers to increase in those areas, again, with the 2 service delivery model officers in particular, that will be just specifically focused on that. I really think even just the impact of 2 officers alone will be pretty incredible to reassuring that presence and to doing the foot patrols and to doing the targeted enforcement too. Youth charges by disposition type, and again too, I saw, even for myself in looking at everything from convictions, diversion, non-convictions, there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of different titles. So basically, for me too, in looking at this, I to make it in its most simple tense, I just wanted to basically determine, do we have any issues? Are there any significant issues that we're seeing with youth crime or just with youth in general? And in speaking with our community mobilization officer, with our community services officer who's out there all the time no, we don't have an issue with youth crime. We're not immune to it. Obviously, we do have occurrences of it, but it's by no means a real systemic or real heightened issue in our detachment area. We do have a very active role with our schools, not only doing presentations and doing work in our schools. They're very supportive of us. It's a very wonderful relationship. But we also have, I would say, probably the flagship detachment in our area, like definitely in West Region, with respect to providing co-op opportunities for high school students with incredible results. We have 3 young people that I can think in particular, one in which has moved on from her role from being a co-op student to being actually hired by us for the summer as a summer student, to now she is actively wanting to get into policing and is one of our auxiliary members. So it's just flowing through. Like, we have an incredible thing, and that means these people are going back into their schools and telling their schools about it. So it's a very, very positive with the local high schools. It's pretty awesome. And excuse me, e-ticketing, warnings and such. And again, too, that's the ability for the officers now to, just if people aren't aware, previously with hard copy ticket books, when we used to have to write our tickets on ticket books, you might say you'd stop a motor vehicle for whatever offense. During the course of your investigation interaction with them, you determine that there might be, say, several things wrong, like maybe they don't have their insurance card, they were speeding or whatever, like et cetera things, or they don't have their ownership with them. These are all set fines. So what an officer would do is they may write one ticket and then just give warnings, like verbal warnings on the other areas too. What we do now have too with technology, which is, it's something. It's pretty amazing now. Our officers have the computer systems now with the ability where they can swipe the driver's license in the car. It brings up a lot of details. If they can print off the ticket now, so it's a printed ticket where they can put their evidence on. But then on top of that, and/or if they have discretion, if they want to issue a warning instead, whatever, that's the discretion of the officer, they can do an electronic warning that is issued, and then the warnings are tracked as well. So it's also a means where you can see that these numbers are going to be kind of slowly building. It's something still organizationally fairly new. So I think it's like anything. It's like, I think, officer buy-in too a little bit. Like, I think you're going to see it getting slowly improving for them being more compliant and more like using that system more and more and more, a little bit as they get used to it. So it is a good thing. It's also a reflection too of, e-ticket warnings, for me anyways, when I look and I see decreases or low numbers, again, for me, that's a flag, and that's something that we need to address and to do a little better, because it might mean that either A, the officers they're doing lots of traffic stops and public interactions, but they're just not documenting it properly. They're just not using the technology. So that can be one thing that we can kind of deal with and address. Or it just simply as, a means of the officers maybe aren't doing enough interactions with the public and traffic stops and that, which is another thing that we need to kind of always keep kind of encouraging, because it is, I never like kind of relying on the fact that, as we all know, comparatively, I look at Norfolk County Detachment comparatively with even other detachments in West Region, and in a lot of areas we're number one or number two, and I think it really does speak to the volume, the workload, and stuff that our members do. It's a very busy detachment. It's funny, you very unassuming. You would never really think that. You would never think that Norfolk County would be a very busy call volume, or with lots going on and that sort of thing. But it truly is, and the numbers speak. So being very conscious and very respectful of our officers' workload, because they are very, very busy. Obviously, some of the recent investigations going on, it kind of speaks to that. But at the same time, we can't just always use that as a caveat of, well, no, we didn't. We kind of paused doing traffic enforcement and making sure our roads are safe because we're busy, and they know that. So again, it's just something that we always kind of balance and keep moving forward on. Public complaints. So there are, as far as with the public complaints here, whether it's conduct, policy, and service, we have seen an increase in specific, if I'm looking at the numbers here, so year to date, I think it was like roughly approximately about a 14.3% increase year to date overall in that. In briefly speaking to that, obviously with public complaints, I can give a bit of an assessment of my perspective of what may lend to some of that increase, which I will touch on, but really overall too, it's something that, again, regardless, we are professional police officers, and the expectation for our members and all our members is to conduct themselves with the ultimate professionalism and representing an age-old organization, but also the community as well. So that's very, very important. And again, it's something I do definitely keep an eye on, and it's through constant engagement with the supervisors, with the sergeants, and the staff sergeants with that team in the office, is really, really having them keep a very close eye on their members. And obviously, like any of us in any profession, any job that we're doing, is to be held accountable, and I really welcome that. We are the ultimate stakeholders in member of representing the public and being members of the public, and really have that duty and that service to our community and to the public, that we do have to be held accountable for our actions in that, and I know our officers do realize that as well. One of the little contributing factors that may kind of speak to a bit of the increase as well was that I can kind of see, previously we had a independent agency that overlooked the complaint process for police. As we all know, OIPRD. That has since changed. I think primarily through the CSPA, but it's kind of changed into the Law Enforcement Complaints Agency, so LECA, and it's more or less the same. However, the one big difference is where OIPRD, it still remains an online component. People can put complaints in of dissatisfaction or whatever with an interaction with the police online. They can do it just at home, which again, back in the day, the onus was really on the person. If you were that upset and that strongly opposed and you wanted to complain, you had to actually physically attend a police station or a police detachment, go to the front desk, and then to file the complaint, which you can see is very intimidating and very onerous. So the online component makes the complaint process, facilitates that a little bit more. The biggest change with LECA 2 is they've made an anonymous component. So before you had to actually provide your name, contact information, and everything into the complaint form and that, now it can be done anonymously. So, and then obviously societal changes and maybe views, people, society, I think as a whole is wanting, and I agree, I completely agree myself, is wanting accountability and wanting to know that, people are being monitored properly and are doing their job correctly. And I think that's very, very fair. So I think kind of those three things in totality, the online component where you can, just sitting at home, you can go online on your computer and submit a complaint anonymously, and obviously with kind of the driving force now going, no, you know what? Yeah, they're the police, but you know what? They're any other organization, they need to be held accountable to, and I'm gonna, this is important to me. So, I think all those three things can kind of lend to a little bit more of a higher increase in complaints. In saying that though, I had a meeting last week and I was speaking with our professional standards area about this in particular. And for the public complaints that come in, I would say they are thoroughly investigated. They're thoroughly investigated through this independent that's not attached to the OPP in any way, to say LECA. I think it's like a 97 or 98, and again too, that's not an accurate number, but it was about a 98, very high number percentage that are found to be unsubstantiated. And then even the ones that come down to our professional standards to investigate as well are very often found to be unsubstantiated. So again, too, I'm not saying either way, but just simply, yes, if there is a high, a high incidence of complaints or volume of complaints coming in, once they've been thoroughly investigated in that, a very small number are actually substantiated. And daily activity reporting. This is kind of an administrative issue for us that we use our DARs, so our daily activity reporting. So every officer has to, at the end of every shift, submit a DAR, and it's really a measured report of exactly what they did that day, like kind of touching on their day events. They also can include their overtime in there. They include, it's kind of like it's like a digital heightened time clock kind of thing of showing really what they've done performance-wise and what they've done during their role during a scheduled shift. So I am going to take a look at this one a little bit myself, because a few numbers, like Obviously, areas that we kind of spoke on, or I addressed a little earlier with foot patrols and cruiser patrols. We can definitely do a lot better. I think that's something I'm definitely going to be speaking to and initiating, and obviously with our service delivery model officers too, that will be really increasing those areas. Some of the areas though too that I did see were motorcycle in 2024 zero. We do have we have we have a motorcycle and we do have 2 operators, and I know that the motorcycle was out. Personally, I do know for a fact many times, many hours this past year. So to me, that I look at that and I go, that's a reporting issue. That's just simply the members just did not, in their DAR, daily activity report, capture it correctly. So it's an educational thing that I can go back to go make sure you're capturing the right categories in that to get for the hard work that they're doing, to get credit for the work that they're actually doing, and that. The same thing with ATV patrol and bicycle patrol too. We did have members that were out actively doing that stuff. So it's just for me to kind of circle back and go, it's a bit of a training issue, I think, to make sure. So I do anticipate the next meeting, we'll start to see the next couple meetings, we'll see these numbers to start to rise. And I think as far as the report, really in addition to the report, and I'll just very quickly, being respectful of everyone's time, a couple other little items, like just kind of highlight important items of interest at the detachment. As I kind of spoke to, a bit of transition as far as staffing at our office. So Jeff McNorgan, Staff Sergeant Jeff McNorgan was promoted to an inspector, and he is now an inspector at the Provincial Communications Center in London, where he is there. So we now have a vacant staff sergeant. We had a vacant staff sergeant position in Norfolk, which has been filled with Staff Sergeant Gene Larman. And Gene is going to be, his start date is to be March 8th. He's going to be starting. Even before, just prior to that, we have a new Staff Sergeant, Catherine Braceland, who started earlier in the fall. And regrettably, she's not here today. She is participating in some joint meetings that going on with respect to some of the significant investigations going on right now, just from our perspective, to keep a finger on the pulse there with what's going on with that. But by all means, I will definitely have both of them come to the next meeting so you can meet them properly, and that. She's a wonderful addition to the detachment and will do really, really well. Lots of other development opportunities going on. We have, whether it's in our crime unit, it's kind of it's a neat little time right now. Like, we have some officers that are being able to do some acting sergeant time on platoon, so they've proven themselves, and they're at that point where they're ready to start getting some more heightened responsibility and tasks. So we have some acting sergeants on platoons right now. We also have an acting detective sergeant in our crime unit right now. So Detective Constable Andrew Beck, who's been a staple here at our detachment for years, very skilled investigator. He's now an acting detective sergeant right now for our crime unit. We're also moving forward, like, just again, identifying, nurturing, cultivating a lot of our, like, and again, that's part of my job is to look even at our staffing and look at people and to really identify future leaders and identify talent and really, really promote that and give them opportunities. So I kind of, in some of the meetings I spoke to our sergeants, and I said 2025 is definitely the year of the opportunity for lots of people to get exposure into things. So it's a great thing. Like, it really is. It'll keep things fresh, give people tons of experience, and it'll only help the detachment down the road. We also have, with the OPP, there's the cadet program that they've reestablished, and we have benefited with a new cadet. So he started just recently, and it's kind of a program that they're looking to. You're almost kind of quasi on deck, in quotes, on deck to being hired in full uniform capacity. So it's kind of a building block to that, and a lot of municipal services have had cadets for years. So he's in there. He's not only can he go out and ride with our officers jointly in the cars going to calls, but he can also do a huge amount of work at detachment for administrative duties, community events, going to the schools, and it's Ryan Dykstra who is our cadet. Wonderful individual, and I'll bring him sometime too, just so you can meet him. But huge capacity, and he's going to do really well. So we're very fortunate to have him. Lots of other little changes kind of coming to each platoon. Probably in the very near future, probably in a couple months, I think. Each platoon, so we have 4 platoons, will have a doc, and so really it's a civilian administrative person with enhanced skills who will be there to support all the uniform officers on that specific platoon with all their administrative work, with reports, with crown briefs, with court things as well. So the good news, back to the counselor, with respect to officer presence out on the street and out on the roads, this is very encouraging to me because it means that this member will have a huge capacity, will be doing a huge workload and able to alleviating a lot of administrative burden off of our officers, which then vis-a-vis will translate to the officers being able to be out on the road more and clear their times in the office where they can go out, and the turnaround will be much faster. So we're very lucky. We're very fortunate. Each syndicate in West Region, in the OPP, 4 syndicates. So each syndicate was allowed 1 detachment out of the syndicate to get this pilot, to be able to get these docs organizationally. And out of our syndicate, which our syndicate includes Haldeman, Brant, Oxford, and us, we were the ones that were identified to get the doc program. So obviously the other detachments are kind of extremely enviable about that, but you know what, it's a great thing. It'll really, really help us. Little things to December, I really, the detachment, they hear me referring all the time the word family, and I really strongly believe that, no, we are a family, and they hear that. That's my messaging all the time. So when we did the very first time ever in Norfolk, I had the sergeants, the staff sergeants, and myself. We went out and paid for a full Christmas dinner, like with turkey, all the fixings, everything, desserts, out of our own pocket, prepared the whole lunch, like put everything together, and then stood and served our detachment. So invited everyone to come, and we served them as they came in to sit down. It was just purely before Christmas as a thank you for showing our thanks to them for what they're doing. And it went very, very well. And it's just, again, just esprit de corps, just trying to create, that welcoming and positive attitude, which will then translate to other things as well. Special Olympian opportunities. So in some of my meetings, this is near and dear to my heart as well. And some of my meetings provincially with other detachment commanders around the province, there were a couple detachments in the province that have been doing it's amazing. They'll identify a local Special Olympian, work with the community partnerships to get that person, supported, whatever they need to do as far as a car washing business, for example. And then we go through the process of that detachment has hired that person and their company, but it's essentially them, to wash the cruisers and to clean the cruisers and to do some meaningful stuff at the office. And the feedback is just astronomical. Like they were saying that not only, yes, the car's the presence, it looks professional, it's good quality you're driving around, it's a good image for the OPP and for the county, but at the same time, this person becomes an integral part of the detachment, like a real family member, very close with everyone. So it's such a positive thing. So we're, excuse me. So we're actually jumping on that and seeing what we can do, because I know, even just looking at the relationship we have with our Special Olympics, everything like Jeremy Renton, the work that he does, the events that we have ongoing, we're really on the map when it comes to Special Olympics at our detachment. And I think it's only a logical step to do something this supportive for somebody. So we're working on that. Really, and lastly, the only other little thing I had here was, again, our MCERT program, which is the trained, essentially like mental health specialists and civilian specialists. Some are nurses, some have like different backgrounds that enter the program, come into the program, and they actually ride with our officers out going to calls. Again, to translating it and kind of connecting it back to even the Mental Health Act calls that we go to. It's again, organizationally, and I know a lot of police services are getting on board with this program. We've been doing it for a long time, and again, we have incredible MCERT workers that work out of our detachment, and we're increasing the complement. So we currently have 3, and I believe we're getting a 4th. There's also another grant that we wrote to get even more enhanced stuff for this program. And again, it's incredible, because it means that these workers are right with the officer going to a person in crisis, and they can assess right on the spot. So they can assess and really mitigate a lot of stuff. Like they can action a referral, action their doctor. They can do a lot of things right on the fly, as opposed to back in not that long ago. The only recourse was the onus was on the officer. The officer had to determine if this person fit the criteria under the Mental Health Act and to apprehend them and bring them back. And if they didn't fit that criteria, but they're obviously still having issue, there wasn't really any. It was very awkward. It was very, very challenging to do that. So to have a community person like with our officers it just really, really enhances that whole area a lot more. Gives way more tools to be able to deal with. But yeah, so that's an encouraging thing too, and it's a great partnership that we do really cherish at our office.
All right, we kept you on the hot spot for a while there. Well, that's what happens when we haven't had a meeting in a long time. So no, I do appreciate all of the depth. And I'll just, before I have a couple questions, but before I start mine, is there anybody who has anything? Linda? Okay. Member Vanden Brieschy?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and through you. Just a synopsis of what I've read and what I understand and what it concerns me. A couple of things. When I looked at the daily activity, I know that the report, I know that's a snapshot in time, and I understand that and I can appreciate it. But my concern is the decrease. The decrease of the actual number of cruising hours, number of foot hours, that is decreased. But yet I've heard your explanation, and I think you're looking to do better, and that you will probably increase that, because it has a direct impact on the traffic charges that are down. When we know that the major concern is speed, and when we see that the charges are down. So, but I know I've heard you, and I appreciate it, that you're looking to do better, and I can understand that. Can you tell me, and I'll just move to this next question though, because I understand and appreciate what was happening there. You have new members, new staff members. We've increased our staff number. Is that correct?
We do have, when I first came to Norfolk, we kind of, in the OPP, we call them vacancies. So if people transfer out or they retire, and there's movement, we will, or maybe there's a promotion and they leave the detachment, we will have a vacancy so that position's kind of empty. So we did have several vacancies when I arrived, and I think I'm not kidding. I think we had probably about anywhere between 8 to 10 vacancies when I first got here, and now my understanding is we're flush. We're very flush. We're with people. And again too, I think it's kind of one of my jobs and one of my ambitious projects was to try to create and put Norfolk on the map, with making it and really promoting it as a very, very exciting, modernized, just a great culture, just everything, place to be and place to work. So we have seen some officers from other detachments lateral transfer to our office as well, which is a huge thing to watch, because that means that they want to actually, these are experienced officers that want to come to Norfolk. So we have seen that, and obviously West Region, I can't take all the credit. They get a lot of my phone calls, and it's a great partnership, and they've done really their best to really enhance our numbers through recruits. So we do have a lot of new recruits and lots of training going on. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. I know you can't maybe tell me the number that Norfolk has, but are they divided up into zones? Can I ask that question? Because we are a vast geographic area, and you are in the towns. Is there a designated number, like 3 or 4 cars? And then in the rural setting, if it's so many miles or whatever, there's 1 or 2 cars. Is it done like that? Is there a zone system so that we know that each area is at some point in time has a cruiser running through it? How does that work? If I could just ask that question.
Yeah, that's totally correct. Actually, you were totally correct. There are zones. There are officers when they come in, start their shift, that are assigned to specific zones to work. Again, it's always a bit of a, it's pretty stable, but obviously it's very fluid, kind of a moving target, as far as we're always looking at analytics, we're looking at numbers, we're looking at where are the most calls for service. Just kind of common sense approach as well, like where do we need the most number of officers? Like, so one zone may have 2 to 4 working, whereas another one may have 2, or another one may have 1. So it's kind of dependent, but again, it's very fluid across the board as far as how they back each other up and how they attend the calls. With our onboard computer systems too, we do share with our neighbors as well. So Elgin County Detachment, for example, at any given time, the sergeants working there would be able to see where our cruisers are, where we are through GPS, and that where we are in our area, and the other way around. So if there's a call in the OPP, we do have a system in place called Closest to the Call, and it's as you're aware of, and a lot of that too is it could be me. So if I'm driving my car and I'm leaving this meeting right now, at the end of this meeting, and a call comes in and they look, and on GPS I'm closest to the call, I will be the one dispatched to it. So that's how they kind of work, but it's a very fluid thing that we're always kind of looking and assessing. But yes, there are zones, and yes, officers are assigned to those specific zones.
Thank you very much.
Most of my questions actually now have been answered. I think the only one that the one thing in the statistics that you didn't talk about, which I don't know if it's a big deal or not, It was the increase in the federal statutes, 133.3%. What exactly does that mean? Federal statutes.
Sorry, bear with me. I'm just kind of looking
Yeah,
here just to
no
make sure I
problem.
got the right context here.
Yep.
And again, too, the federal statutes, that can be, again, Canada Shipping Act. I'm kind of a little bit at a loss here too, but I think it would kind of fall more into, say, our Marine Patrol, the Marine enforcement under the some of the federal statute, like for Marine, as far as like Canada Shipping. It could also be something illegal cigarettes or tobacco, the Tobacco Act, some of the federal legislation that we do come across.
Okay, thank you very much. And I guess my only other question is, obviously, I understand that we're at a very precarious spot in our county with the issues that you had mentioned in terms of the ongoing fire issue. And I understand today that there are 3 more. And I do want to thank you for working in close collaboration with Chief Stillwell and his team. I guess my question is our detachment receiving any assistance from other sources that have any expertise in this area of concern?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's for obvious reasons. And again, too, it's I think the nature of the OPP, the benefit of the OPP, when really we do have the luxury of having many different services, different areas of the OPP that all work jointly. Notifications are made, and a lot of people are involved. So with heightened investigative skill and different areas. So again, too, as far part of an ongoing investigation or concern, there's many stakeholders in part right now.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to hear. And as always, I'll just finish off my thing is that I would love to see continuing number increase in the foot patrol. The community just really resonates well with that and get a lot of feedback from it. And it's just such a value to our community because I know geographically we're very large, but it is a very small town kind of sense. So people really like to have that, that sense of community. So. All right, are there any other questions before we move on to the next part? Nope. Yes, and before we move on, can I get a motion to accept the report as presented? Member Veery, and second it by Member Van den Riche. All those in favor? And that is carried. Now you get to hear me talk for a little bit. Actually, I don't have much. Anyways, that was great. It's nice to be back and to get this all on the go again. For those, again, following at home who have missed us, our next meeting will be in March. And at that point in time, we will have our same format. We may have an additional person at the table. What I would like to say is that I have been in contact with the Solicitor General's office in regards to getting our provincial appointee. So what at the best I can surmise at this point is we would encourage individuals to apply on the website for a provincial appointee appointment. There will be a posting on our county website. In the meantime, if you're really anxious in terms of wanting to join the OPP Detachment Board as the provincial appointee, you can go on the Solicitor General's page, and there is a direction there that you can follow along to put in an application. So again, calling for the public to become involved in the OPP Detachment Board through the provincial appointee program, and look for that posted on our website. all members should have received an email probably this morning, so maybe you haven't had a chance to see it. There is some training that needs to be completed as part of our new mandate. So if that can be done prior, as soon as possible, but definitely prior to our next meeting in March. The next thing on my agenda is we have our, I can never remember the acronym for it. It's the Ontario, what is it, Tracy? Help me out. Oh, we had it, just bear with us. Oh, I thought I had it, but no, it's gone. Well, while we're looking for that. It's the annual conference through the Police Services Board. And, sorry? Ontario Association of Police Services Board. And this conference takes place in June every year. This past year, we had the luxury, really, member cruise of going to, it being held in Collingwood in the Village, and it was pretty phenomenal in a lot of ways. This one takes place June 3rd to the 5th in London at the Lamplighter Inn. And typically we send 2 members to the conference. Typically it's the chair and another member. And Member Vanden Rishi has attended, Member Cruz has attended. We don't have our provincial appointee yet. So not to put you on the hot seat, Member Veery, would you be interested in attending? This is June 3rd to the 5th. Okay, I knew you would be interested. Okay, sorry that you missed out on Collingwood, but we'll make London a good conference. So we're just in the process. Our rooms are booked, and we're just looking to do the registration for the 2 individuals who will be attending. That is it for me. Yes, and well, I guess we'll get a motion to accept that the 2 members who will be attending the conference June 3rd to the 5th in London will be Member Veery and Member Huffman. If someone could, okay, Member Cruz and a seconder for that. Member Vanden Rishi, all those in favor? And that is carried. Okay. No? Okay. Okay, Member Cruz.
Yes, thank you, Chair. According to the new act, all the Police Service Board members have to have a police clearance. I tried getting my police clearance months ago, and I went all through the process, and it stopped me. I need a letter from the county to state why I need the police clearance. So it just needs to be, there are examples on the OAPSB site. So whenever I get that letter, and all the members have to have one, apparently, so they'll have to go through that process.
Okay, thank you for bringing that to our attention. So we will have the clerk's office get a letter to all the members of the OPP Detachment Board so that they can secure their police clearance.
Right. When the inspection agency comes around to the different places, all these
Yes.
things will have to, okay, good.
I'll be tickety-boo.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns before we close out the meeting? Okay. With that, I would like to call adjournment to the police, or the OPP Detachment Board meeting at 10:57 a.m. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Member Veery and a seconder, Member Cruz. All those in favor? And with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.